it's Stacy. Today I'm here with a card that we're going to create a really cool background with. We're going to use reverse confetti, picture perfect stamp set. We're going to use some framelit hearts from Stampin' Up. They're nesting dies. Of course, we're going to color with Copics. We're going to use a black colored pencil, a blending stump, and some Gamsol. You're also going to need some post-it tape or low-tack tape in order to create the background. So I'm going to get started with stamping the image. This post is for Saturday Morning Makes, which is hosted by Jill Norwood. It's created and hosted by Jill Norwood. It's an open collab. It's hashtag driven. Use the hashtag satmornmakes. Share your projects, whatever they are, with that hashtag on whatever social media, and join in the fun. Use it to search too, and I'll leave all the info down below. So I'm taking these images and I'm stamping them on some Neener Solar White 80-pound cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is alcohol marker friendly. And I'm going to go ahead and color these up. So I stamped them on the Neener because it does have tooth. I used the Copic Express It blending cardstock last time. The pencils didn't want to move on there like they do on the Neener. So test out your different cardstocks if you want to do this technique. So I'm just going to color these little bears up. I'm going to color these images up, and I'm starting with my darkest, and then I go to my lightest. And I believe I originally mapped out the shadows in the lightest, especially on that little bear, because I wanted to get a feel for how it was going to lay out, and then I went in with my darkest. I often do that instead of going straight in with my darkest, because I just want to get a feel for where I want those shadows and make sure that's what I want. And then I'm going to color this little car up. And I love the color teal. It's my favorite color, aquas. And so that's why I did this car like this. Plus, a lot of those cars like that there were a few of this color. My aunt had one like this, but when we were kids, we were so embarrassed, my cousins and I, we were so embarrassed to be seeing it that we'd hide in the back seat and lay down so none of our friends saw us. But today, we would think that car was cool. So this little image reminded me of me and my husband, and you'll see what I combine in there, and I'll tell you why. I'm coloring this car up, and I'm not real happy with it when I move on to the next image, but we're going to come back to it. So I encourage you to stick around. Are you guys going to participate in Saturday Morning Makes? Did you get here because you already participate, or did you find my video a different way? Let me know down in the comments. I've really been trying to work hard on putting out regular videos and put out some different content. Coloring is my jam. That's what I enjoy. So most projects will include that, if not all. And then I'm trying to include some different things besides that. So if you have any requests, let me know. I think I have just over 800 subbies. I'm trying to reach 1,000. When I reach 1,000, I will do a giveaway. And if you're part of my channel, you'll probably want that giveaway. And I will say something about it more later. But I'd rather have people come around and watch my videos because they enjoy it versus coming for a giveaway. Which I did do a giveaway and a hidden giveaway in my videos, which I've done in the past. So that's usually how I do it. So I'm coloring up this bumper with cool grays. A lot of times I use warm grays, and I do that because warm grays to me feel more like the little furry creatures or whatever I'm using. I prefer warm grays over cool. But when I use cool grays, it's typically because I want something to look more metallic or metal. Not a living object, but most living things, objects I'll use warm grays with. And I'm just taking that black colored pencil on this card because I wasn't real happy with it. And I did that right away instead of finishing coloring the other images. And I blended it with Gamsol and that blending stump. And I put it aside because I wasn't happy with the depth. And then I'm coloring up this little popcorn container. And I only used 2 colors, and I think the gray only used 1. And then I'm using an E50 because it's really pale. Kind of reminded me of popcorn. I just dotted in those popcorn kernels so that they had some sort of texture or depth. I'm using the same reds. It's the same colors I incorporate throughout my entire card. Whether it's the teals, the BG markers, the grays, the browns, I reincorporate them into most images. I don't typically pull in a lot of different colors because I've said this before, I like a more cohesive feel, and so I try to carry it throughout my cards. And I'm coloring this up with some cool grays, and I don't go back and reblend this one. I started with my darkest and worked to my lightest, and I left it. I kind of like that splotchy look, like as if that is a worn down screen for a drive-in, like it's been weathered, so that's why I left it. I went ahead and took those same BGs, but I don't believe I brought the darkest one in here for the background. And you'll see I pause a little bit because I'm like struggling with what all do I want to color. I was going to color the bullseye symbol red, and I thought that's going to look like a Target or Target symbol, and I didn't want that. So I just took the B11, which was the lightest I used, and I believe I work in, is it a B70? No, it was a B70 I used for the background, or BG70, which is really pale. And then I'm using the tip to tip. I think it's a BG, I can't see because my screen's so little. I think that's a 13, and I'm working it into the 11 so that it'll blend out a little bit more and smoothly. I prefer to put it to the chisel nib just because, I don't know, if my marker slips or whatever, it's not going to leave a mark like the chisel. It could too, but that's just the way I prefer. As you see, I'm going to use that tip to tip method here on the card again because I wanted a smoother blend, and I'm much happier in the end with how this came out. Now, I would suggest doing this before you add the colored pencils. I don't know if it's going to affect the marker. I don't think it does. It could. So do it at your own risk. I wouldn't color over embossing powder or white gel pens because they can clog your nibs. And then I'm just shading the ends and like some of the points in the word the end, in the words the end, so that it has a little bit of depth. And I'm doing it in the cool grays, and I didn't put the darkest one in there. And then I'm going back in and doing these little images with the colored pencil and Gamsol. What do you guys think of this image? Isn't it cute? I would like to do a scene card with it that has some more realistic shadows. I was just playing around last night, decided to turn my camera on, and then it turned into a whole card, and it turned into me making a tutorial. But I would like to do one that has where it's being lit from the front and really some deep shadows where it's not bright like it is, with some more realism. So I'm taking that black colored pencil and went around the edges of that screen, the frame around the screen, so that it deepened the color, deepened the shadows, it smoothed it out a bit, but it still has that kind of weathered look. And then the same thing, I'm going into the shadows with the pencil, and I decided I want the edges to have a little bit of shadowing and distortion because it's, you know, most drive-ins are older. That's what it reminds me of when I used to go to the drive-ins when I was a kid. Do you guys have a drive-in in your area? Ours closed down, I don't know. Maybe 15 years ago. Might have been a couple of years less, a couple of years more, somewhere around there. And I remember everybody was really disappointed, but nobody went. So here I fussy cut all these images, and I'm taking a black Memento marker, which matches the ink. You can use, if you stamp in black, use any felt tip marker if you're not going to recolor. And you can do this. So I go around the edges, the cut portion, and I go from the back. So if I slip, I don't ruin my project because I've slipped before and had to recolor the image. and it gives a much cleaner look. Later on, when I'm putting the card together, it might show. I don't know if it'll be zoomed in enough, but there's a little corner I didn't get that I went back in and touched up, and it does make a difference. So this is the technique I want to share with you guys. That's some heavyweight cardstock in the back. I'm taking these nesting dies and I'm lining them up one within each other. And you'll see I'm fiddling with them because I want the spacing to be even. I want it to be straight. I'm using my little placement tool there that has like a stick pin edge on it, so to straighten it out because my fingers were too big. And then I taped it down with some post-it tape, and I'm holding my images up because that center smallest heart, I want to make sure it's not going to be completely covered. And then I got my die cutting machine, and depending on what machine you use, your pancake, is that what it's called, could be different. That is for those embossing plates. So that's what I'm using. I'm using the mat. It's like a rubber mat that goes in there. And I'm setting that, I'm putting my cutting plate down. I'm putting that rubber mat in there. I'm setting my cardstock with the dies. And it's not going to cut through. I'm going to run that thing in completely through. I'm going to go back and forth. And it's not going to cut through. That mat underneath it will prevent that. It's just going to make the indentations. It's going to emboss it. So here it is, and you can kind of see the outlines beyond those lines, the cutting, what would be your cutting portion of the die, like where the ridge is on dies in there. And sometimes it looks really pretty, but typically it'll kind of go away, especially because I'm going to do some ink blending on this. And then I'm trying to, I'm laying out my card a bit because I want to see. I don't know if you saw I held that up and my dies were offset a little bit. They were hanging off the edge, so that gave me the opportunity to cut it down. It gives more visual interest to our cards. And I've got these waffle flower nesting rectangles, which you could do this technique with those as well. You could do it with one die. You could do it with whatever dies you want. Experiment and play around. But I cut it with that die and it's now spaced out evenly. And then I'm going in with some distress ink. I think this is cracked pistachio. I thought it went well with the blue greens, the Copic colors that were chosen. And I'm just laying down a little bit of ink, just so there's a grounding for that screen with some interest. And then I just took a large Post-it note. You can use your Post-it tape as well. And I'm masking off the top area there because I wanted to add some pavement so that they have some grounding for that vehicle. And then I'm laying it out, and I kind of realized, oh, I wish I would have done that pavement a little bit thicker, but I make it work. And I laid it out, and I'm like, I'm gluing those little pieces in. See how I went back in with that pen? It's because when I laid it down, I could see that little white edge. And that helped. I'm going to pop this image up with some foam tape. And you don't really have to use this much foam tape. I don't know. I'm always say I'm extra because I am. And I just figure it's making it more secure in case I decide to mail it. But I think I'm going to give this to my husband. And I'm using a T-square ruler here to make sure that screen is level. And don't pay attention to the drive-in movie. I don't end up using the image, even though I do think it's cute. It just didn't go overall with the layout I did. And I'm using some tweezers there because it allows me to see where that card's the image is actually gonna land without my hand being in the way, and I can adjust it where I want. Now I used some black colored pencil again down below the car because I wanted to make it feel grounded because it would cast a shadow. Probably cast one bigger than that, honestly. And my distress ink was still a little bit wet, so the paper kind of peeled up, but that's fine. It didn't affect the overall card. And then I went in with a Copic to kind of spread that out and make a larger shadow. And if you're going to stamp your sentiment, now I took a risk here. If you feel like daring and living on the edge, you could do what I did. It ended up working out. But I would suggest if you're going to stamp your sentiment or stamp anything, stamp it before you emboss your cardstock with the dies. because there's no guarantee it's going to work out. It did work out, thank goodness. I thought, since we trimmed this panel down, let's frame it with some black cardstock to pull in those darker grays. I just glue it down with some liquid glue. I have one of those ATG runners and I've used it before, but man, I fumble around with it. And if it's this thin of a border, I struggle. I struggle with getting it even, and there's no play in those. So I took Spectrum Noir, I put on the lights and the heart and the stars, and then I went in some glossy accents that I put in like a fine tip glue bottle that I got at Michael's, and it allows me to get in those little finicky places. I'm putting some enamel dots down. Those enamel dots, I messed around with them so much you could see there's a white one in there and gray ones now that I think worked well. And we're going to glue it to the card base here. And make sure that I'm gluing it upright, not upside down. And here's the finished card. What do you guys think? Isn't it cute? I think these guys are cute. It would be cute to put these guys on an action wobbler too and make them look like they're, you know, wobbling. So if you liked this video, if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.